You had a scholarship to Abilene Christian University then. You played there.
Yeah, I went on I decided, I guess you could say, be a bigger fish in a smaller pond. Mm-hmm. When I came out, Ned Wood was the coach at Arizona State, Fred Snowden at Arizona. And I took visits to both places. And then Abilene Christian got a hold of me in Texas and took a trip out there and really enjoyed it.
So 4 years there.
4 years there,
mm-hmm.
yeah. Had a good career,
mm-hmm.
All-American as a senior in 1980.
So how did you get into coaching then?
Well, I decided that if I wasn't going to be, an athletic anymore, I had some great role models that really kind of not pushed me in that direction, but kind of set the mm-hmm. table for me. Dwight Rees, Curly Santa Cruz, and of course Rolly Levetter, my high school coach. So I had some good mentors, and I figured that was a logical progression for me.
So where did you start then coaching?
I started in Texas in the middle school level, and the story there, thank God I did start at a lower level. I remember the first game that I coached, it was against a rival. We had split up. It's middle school, but it was big for me. And they were really hammering us, and we were making a comeback, and it kind of got close. But I remember calling a timeout right as they scored. Timeout right away. Well, I dropped this great play. I get ready to send my guys back out there. And as soon as I send them out there, we throw the ball in and the buzzer goes off. And I looked up and there was only 1 second on the clock when I called the timeout. So I learned you better check the clock before you start calling the timeouts.
As John said earlier, Tony Morales is not here, but Delano Price is going to say a few words about his former coach. So what kind of coach was he? Was he like a player's coach, or how was he?
Well, he was an old school coach. I mean, his nickname was Torpedo, right, Bobby? So, I mean, he was no nonsense. I mean, in practice, it was, you didn't dare slough off, or, I mean, you just didn't mess around.
Well, let's hope he can make it here for the ceremony.
I went to see him along with two of my former teammates. We surprised him about 3 years ago and went to see him. He resides in Hemet, California. He's 88 years old. He's still spry, has a good memory, but his wife is ill. So I'm hoping and praying that he will be able to come. He's honored and he sends his best to everybody.
Isn't it amazing what an impact coaches have on your lives?
Oh man, I tell you what, it was a very emotional experience for all of us, but he was just so overcome. He left the year I graduated, 1969, and went on to a very successful coaching career at Lincoln High School, baseball coach, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. which was what he was really. Right. That was his first love. There he
comes. Dwight was from New York, and you came out to U of A. How'd that happen?
I was sitting in my residence up in Cortland, New York, which is in central New York, and there was about a foot of snow outside, and the Dean Martin Tucson Open was being played, and I saw a bunch of guys in golf shirts walking around, and I said, that looks like the place for me.
Now, did you come here? I guess you got your master's here. That what you came here for?
Yes, I came here to get my master's degree.
And you were a grad assistant under Fred Snowden?
Second year here. I was a PE assistant first year, and then they rearranged their staff and had a graduate assistant opening.
So that was when Jerry Holmes was here too, right?
Yeah, Jerry Holmes was here and Ken Maxey. That was the staff.
So what, 2 or 3 years in Globe, then you came back to Tucson?
2 years in Globe, came back to Tucson, Sunnyside High School.
And there quite a while?
Yeah, on and off, as a matter of fact. I coached there for 5 years, went to Pima for 4, and then came back and coached at Sunnyside for another 9, I think, and then took off a few, and then coached for another 4. And so, yeah.
So you were the state champs 92-93, 29-0. Was that, when you have a record like that, what were you thinking before the season? We have a chance to be an outstanding team?
I knew we could be pretty good. It never registered that, and I thought we'd go to state tournament if things broke right, but I never thought we'd win all the games.
So you were born in South Tucson, Pueblo High School, football and track, and played under Lou Farber.
Yes, I started football coach. My first job was with Lou Farber, yes. And also I started coaching track with Clay Hitchcock.
But you played under Lou, though, too.
I played under Lou, and I coached under Lou, and also the same with Clay Hitchcock.
And you were the state champions in 1961 with Lou.
Correct. Those were, the 60s were good years for us. You know, the 58 team started the ball rolling. 61 team won the state. 67 team was a state runner-up. So it was 10 good years for Pueblo during the 60s.
So you went to play college football in California, and then you came back here. Were you at McGee High School? Is that junior high? Is that where you started?
That was my first year. I started working with Gordon Overstreet. Yes. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I was a football coach, intramural, and track coach.
And I read where you saved during a track meet. You saved a young person's life.
Yes, we had so many kids out for track that I had to have a morning practice before school, and then after school session. And during his name was Robert Twitty, and yes, I was credited with saving his life. Yes. So
then you went to Pueblo High School, the JV coach for 9 years.
Yes, I became my first year under Lou Farber. I was the head JV coach. Yes.
And then you got the head coaching job. Now you had it was your 1988 team that went undefeated?
Yes, we were undefeated, but I need to correct that we didn't take state. We got beaten by Agua Fria, who took state that year and the following year.
So that's a pretty impressive record, though, for Tucson team.
Yes, you know, it was some good years. We had some good years and bad years.
So you're there, you coached 10 years, 9 winning seasons, a lot of hard work and all year round.
Yes, you know, it's something that I love to do. It was easy for me because I really enjoyed it. It was a passion for me.
He's one of the most famous motocross riders in the world, right? I mean, you don't be modest up here. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I have traveled around the world and raced in a lot of different countries, and pretty well known in Europe.
Mm-hmm. So you attended South Point, then you moved to Sunnyside. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I went to South Point for 2 years, and then in 1973, end of the year, Sunnyside went to all-year school. And so you go for 9 weeks and then get off for 3. So I would spend 3 weeks in California racing as a 17-year-old professional.
How did you get into that, into motocross?
Well, in the neighborhood, you know, everybody had mini bikes, and my dad had a welding shop, so we basically had the best mini bike in the neighborhood. And we had the fastest motors, you know, lawnmower motors and stuff. And then I met a guy out in the desert right here at Irvington in Santa Cruz named Joe Garcia. And he was a motocross racer, and we would race out in the desert, and I would beat him. And he took me to a race one day and loaned me his practice bike, and I won the first race. And then 7 races later, I turned pro. But it doesn't happen nowadays like that.
Yeah, reading about you, you were honored just last January at Chase Field for was there a Monster Energy event?
Yeah, there's a supercross race up in Phoenix at Chase Stadium. It was Legends and Heroes. What they're doing is they're going to every city that has a motocross race, and they're honoring just basically like what you guys are doing here, and they're building what they call Legends and Heroes. And they're just naming some of the riders from back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Now you were at some event in Mexico where you had 50,000 spectators there. Now is that like at a stadium, or how does it work?
No, actually that was an outdoor race, and it was pretty wild and crazy compared to races in Europe. But that was a pretty big event that day.
Now you played club rugby here at the U of A, and where'd you come from originally? Phoenix area?
Oh no, I came from a little farming community north of San Diego called Los Angeles. Los Angeles is, and I actually came here. Coach Wing probably has forgotten this on a good night's sleep, but I actually came here to play baseball for Coach Kindle in 1973. And speaking of Rincon High School, there's guys named Hassey and a friend of mine named Pete Van Horn, and that was Murderers Row. And it was Coach Kindle who delicately took me aside one time just after my 3rd shoulder surgery and said, "You can't throw. Maybe you should broadcast someday." And that's how it all got started. True story.
So how did you get into rugby? Because rugby wasn't that big a sport, was it, back in the early 70s?
Nothing like it is today, Pat. I remember when I went out for rugby at the university in 1974, I had played a little bit in high school in Southern California, and after 3 shoulder operations walking into rugby, I said, well, it's less dangerous than baseball because of all my surgery had come from baseball prior to that as a catcher. So I ended up being on an American college all-star team playing over in Britain in 1976 and 77. and fell in love with the sport. And I had a great mentor, a fellow by the name of John Evans, who was the national track and field coach for the country of Wales, but also one of their top rugby coaches. And since that time, it's been a great 38 years as a member of the University of Arizona rugby program.
So you're playing, and then when did you become the coach of the team?
When I was 22 years old. We played on NBC Sports. What I never thought is that we'd be in a position, as we are now back in the Olympics, and we were on NBC Sports recently, and they noted on the telecast that I've been coaching there for 34 years, and they were expecting somebody 85 years old. So it was a lot of fun. But I was 22 years old when I actually took the reins.
And you're still coaching today?
Still at it.
And 381 wins.
Yes, and 200 losses, so there's 500 times I can remember standing around all over the world watching our kids play rugby.
It's pretty amazing here. You were at South Point and you moved back to Pennsylvania, is that correct?
Yeah, I was at South Point through my freshman year, and then my parents relocated to Philadelphia.
And you played field hockey. Now I remember the girls played field hockey when I went to Rincon, but I can't remember, what was it? What were you, was it a stick? You had sticks, and what were you, was it a, what were you?
Chicks with sticks, that's right.
Now that's not, they don't, obviously, do they still have field hockey around, some schools?
Oh yeah, it's very popular back east.
Is it? And you did track and softball, and I guess javelin was your best sport?
Yeah, I threw javelin.
So,
It was either that or run the 800, and I said, oh no.
so because you were out here early, you wanted to come back, and that's why you went to the U of A?
Yeah, I had grown up here, and I still actually had older siblings here, and so my senior year I got hurt, and all those scholarship offers disappeared, and so I took a couple of years to think about what I wanted to do, and when I figured out it was teaching and coaching, one of my Olympic development coaches was here at the U of A coaching and asked me to come give it a try. And so I came for my audition, and they signed me up, and I said, yes, moving back to Sunshine.
And now you went to then you go to Orangeville. You're working at teaching there, and you're doing soccer, baseball, and softball.
Yeah, I got my first teaching job at County Foothills School District at Orangeville Middle School, and they needed a coach for every sport. So in the fall it was softball, and then it was girls soccer and boys soccer, and in the spring it was boys baseball, and that was me.
And so you're the first. When Foothills opens up, they hire you in 1992, and you're the boys soccer coach at Foothills.
They started the program at the high school when they started the high school.
And what was that like? I mean, you're the boys soccer coach, Foothills. Are they thinking? I mean, how is much different is it coaching boys than girls?
Drastically. You know, everybody thinks that you just have the bickering on the girls' teams. Oh no, boys have their own little set of. It's just called something else when the boys do it. So.
I mean, when you first got there, when people go, what's a girl coaching the boys team?
It was it's been an interesting run being a female coaching two male sports. It's not always been smooth, but I've always had a good core group of supporters and other coaches. Wes Ground at Flung Wells High School was one of my biggest supporters when I broke into high school coaching, and he was always there for me.
So you have 4 state titles in soccer, Coach of the Year 5 times, and then you also are the boys golf coach.
Yes, that's true. And I only have 1 title in golf.